Coming up, the Flames stay undefeated and the Bruins take their first loss of the season. This is Locked On Game to Game NHL.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NHL, local experts on all of the biggest stories on the ice. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On NHL on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. We have all of our Locked On NHL hosts here to recap the action for you from last night. We'll start out with a battle of two winless teams. Saw Columbus get their first victory of the season. They beat the Canucks in overtime. Locked On Blue Jackets gets the recap of a win for the first time this year.
Good news, everyone. Our long national nightmare is over. The Blue Jackets have finally won a hockey game. Jay Foster, Locked On Blue Jackets here. Blue Jackets beat the Canucks in overtime 4-3. Game-winning goal from who else? Vladislav Gavrikov. Obviously, who else would be scoring game-winning goals? Beautiful pass from Igor Chinakhov. But honestly, the big story for me today, that goal that Johnny Gaudreau scored, I'm going to be thinking about that for the next 4 to 6 business days, I think. But mostly, the important thing for me, the young guys. Kent Johnson, I thought, had a phenomenal game. Didn't score, but came real close about 3 or 4 times. He had some real jump in his step. Shame he couldn't get the birthday goal, but the success for me, Nick Blankenburg. If Nick Blankenburg is not playing in the next game, I am going to riot. He was by far the best defenseman on the ice. I think Werenski had a good game, but for me, Blankenburg, he had 4 shots, he had 5 massive hits. Did he take an unwise penalty at the end? Sure, but for a guy that's been healthy scratch for the past 3 games, he looks like a guy that is not going to give up that spot without a fight, and hopefully he'll be in the next game. The Blue Jackets have another game in a couple of days. Hopefully, we'll see him there. And we're going to talk all about this game, this win, on tomorrow's Locked On Blue Jackets, which you can find wherever you get your podcasts and also over on YouTube. Make us your first listen of the day, every day. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.
Dougie Hamilton's third period goal was the difference for New Jersey last night. Locked On Devils goes over the victory over Anaheim.
What's up? This is Trey Matthews of Locked On Devils, and here is my post-game reaction. So, the New Jersey Devils came out on the winning end against the Anaheim Ducks by a score of 4-2. This is the New Jersey Devils' first win of the season, and it was much needed. There was a lot at stake going into this matchup. The New Jersey Devils are coming off of back-to-back big losses against the Philadelphia Flyers and also the Detroit Red Wings. It was putting the job security of our head coach, Lindy Ruff, into question. So he was definitely on the hot seat going into this matchup. So this was pretty much a much needed win for New Jersey. It was a must win. And even though they got off to a slow start by letting up 2 early goals to the Anaheim Ducks, they were able to shut the door and score 4 unanswered goals. And they were led by Andre Palat, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, and Dougie Hamilton. Mackenzie Blackwood was also able to rebound quite nicely. I just want to give a shout out to Andre Palat just because that's why we brought him onto the team in the first place, to pull the bootstrings up for some of our young guys. And basically, when things looked murky, when things looked lost, he was the one that we relied on. So hopefully this is the first of many of notable occurrences of Andre Palat's leadership.
The Bees dropped their first game of the year as they fall on the road to Ottawa. Locked On Senators takes us through the home opener win for their team.
We knew nights like this were bound to happen when the Bruins are playing without Brad Marchand and Charlie McAvoy to begin the season. And well, here we are. For the first time this season, the Boston Bruins are on the losing end of things after having dropped a 7-5 decision to the Ottawa Senators on Tuesday evening. This is Ian McLaren, host of Locked On Boston Bruins, and while the team scored enough to secure the victory, there were too many defensive lapses, and that's going to happen when you're playing without 3 of your top 4 defensemen. Not only is McAvoy out of the lineup, but Matt Grzelcyk, Brandon Carlo also injured, and Anton Strawman was making his debut, showed a little bit of rust. The Bruins certainly didn't help goaltender Jeremy Swayman in this one. The Bruins will regroup, head home, try to get back on the winning side of things, but all credit to the Ottawa Senators, who after starting the season 0-2, rose to the occasion in their home opener before a raucous crowd and earned the victory over the previously unbeaten Bruins. Be sure to check out Locked On Boston Bruins for all the latest on the black and gold. Again, I'm the host, Ian McLaren.
Coming up, the Flyers stay winning while the Sharks can't buy themselves a victory. This is Locked On Game to Game NHL. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by BetOnline, the number one spot for all of your online sports gambling needs. The MLB playoffs are hitting their stride right now, and the NBA and NHL have returned. So whatever you like to bet on, you have that ability at betonline.net. It's where the game starts. Welcome back to Locked On Game to Game NHL. I'm Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. The sports gods are seriously smiling on Philadelphia right now, so it's only fitting that the Flyers would begin their season undefeated. They are currently 3-0. Their most recent win over a great Tampa Bay Lightning team. Locked On Flyers goes over another comeback win to start the year.
Russ Cohen here from the Locked On Flyers podcast. Flyers have another comeback win. They're down 2-0 again. They come in and go to Tampa and pull out a 3-2 win. Big one. Again, goals from Scott Laughton, James Van Riemsdyk, and a big go-ahead goal from Noah Cates, a big turnaround goal off a turnover. They really, from the second period to the third period, really played solid hockey. They're just putting the league on notice as far as being able to play hard for a full 60, and so far they've been able to do it, and Carter Hart got the win. So that's it from the game from Tampa. Another big win for the Flyers. They're now 3-0, 3-2 win. Take care.
As good as the Flyers start has been, the Sharks suffered their fifth loss of the young season. Locked On Islanders and Locked On Sharks bring us the details from both sides of last night's game.
Getting the job done with offense. Hi, I'm Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders here. The Islanders topping the 40-shot mark, 45 to be exact, and they beat the San Jose Sharks 5-2. The beautiful thing is that this team is getting scoring opportunities without sacrificing very much on the other end. Oliver Wahlstrom with 2 goals in this game, both of them goal scorers' goals, and I'll tell you, if Oliver Wahlstrom can pick up his game and give the Islanders a 25 goal season this year, that will go a long way toward helping this Islander club improve offensively. But overall, the defense stepping up, the team being a little bit more aggressive offensively, it is something that Islander fans have been hoping for a while, and they are getting the job done, albeit against some shaky opposition. But hopefully the Islanders continue this improvement as the schedule continues. For more, watch or listen to the Locked On Islanders podcast with me, Gil Martin, wherever you get podcasts.
The Sharks dropped their 5th straight game to start the season. I'm JD Young of Locked On Sharks, and the Sharks continue their losing ways, losing 5-2 to the Islanders. And again, we see the Sharks continue to wheels come off the track during the second period. They were outshot at 1 point 16-4 in the second period and gave up 3 goals to the Islanders. And we've continued to see this from the Sharks early in the season, where they played decent hockey to get things started, but as soon as any adversity hits, they completely fall apart. And this continues to be a theme of the young season for the Sharks. So Sharks lose 5 straight to open the season for the first time in franchise history and firmly place themselves all ahead for the tank for Connor Bedard. You can find Locked On Sharks wherever you get podcasts, and of course, subscribe on YouTube as well.
The Calgary Flames went down 2-0 early to the Vegas Golden Knights, but then scored 3 unanswered goals to stay undefeated in Calgary. Locked On Flames and Golden Knights recap that comeback victory.
And you can put it in the win column. Your Calgary Flames are now 3-0 as they completed a 1-2-3 unanswered goal comeback against the Vegas Golden Knights. What's up, everyone? I'm your host, Jess Belmosto of Locked On Flames, and the Calgary Flames are now 3-0 as they move on to their next game in the homestand. It was a great game. You know, that first goal from Elias Lindholm was called back, but the Flames didn't let that stop them as they just kept it going. This team looks great. I think Jonathan Huberdeau does need to kind of slow it down a little bit with this. He's trying to be too special and too fancy with it. He just needs to do his thing. He has so much skill in him, and he can just get that goal. I know he's hungry for it. So, hey, let's do it next game. Tune in to Locked On Flames tomorrow, where we will recap the full game.
Per coach Bruce Cassidy, the Golden Knights fail their test. Hey, everybody, Chris Gawlik coming to you live from Lifeguard Arena here in Henderson. I'm between games, so I got a shot to give you guys all the details about the Golden Knights' loss in Calgary tonight. Quick 2-0 lead, goals by Howden and Carrier. Carrier gets a gift, but the Golden Knights could not close the door. Penalties in the second period absolutely crushed the VGK. Big shout out to Logan Thompson for an amazing game played. Folks, for everything Vegas Golden Knights, check out Locked On Vegas Golden Knights anywhere you find your podcasts, your team every day.
The Edmonton Oilers have made it a pretty bad habit of falling behind early and then trying to climb their way back in. Edmonton could not come back from down early against the Sabres, though, last night. Locked On Oilers goes over a second loss in 3 games to start the season.
The Edmonton Oilers' late game heroics fall just short once again. Hi, I'm Brett Holden from Locked On Oilers, and the Edmonton Oilers lose once again 4-2 to the hands of the Buffalo Sabres, and the same stories keep getting told by the Edmonton Oilers. They allow the first goal in their 3rd straight game as the Buffalo Sabres jump to a 3-1 lead, and it proved to be just too much for the Edmonton Oilers. Darnell Nurse scores his 2nd goal of the season as Leon Draisaitl picks up his 5th assist of the season, 6th point in 3 games. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins also getting on the board for the Edmonton Oilers, that being on the 2nd goal of the game. That goal was assisted by Connor McDavid, who now is tied for the 5th most amount of points in the Edmonton Oilers organization, tying Paul Coffey. The Edmonton Oilers fire off 48 shots on Eric Comrie as he puts aside 46 of them as he puts away the Edmonton Oilers. And the Edmonton Oilers fall to 1-2-0 on their season. The next game on Thursday against the Carolina Hurricanes, a rematch of the 2006 Stanley Cup Final.
The Kings move back above 500 with a shootout win over the Predators. Our Locked On Kings host says LA's tough play led it to their win on Tuesday.
A gritty, gutty win by the LA Kings in Music City. I'm Eddie Garcia with the Locked On LA Kings podcast. The Kings pulled one out in Nashville, 4-3 in a shootout thanks to a dominant third period. Trailing 3-1 entering the third, LA had a pair of goals from defenseman Matt Roy, who had never had a multi-goal game in his 211 games in the NHL. The last one tied it up with just over 2 minutes to play. The Kings outshot the Predators 15-3 in the third period with a big push to tie up the game. Gabe Vilardi scored his 4th goal of the season and scored the lone goal in the shootout as well. The Kings also had a huge penalty kill effort in the overtime period to force the shootout. Goalie Cal Peterson came up big with some saves in the overtime and stopped all 3 shooters in the shootout to improve to 2-0 on the season. After starting the season with 2 home losses, LA now has won 3 in a row to start their 9-day, 5-game road trip. We'll have a full recap of this thrilling win in Nashville on Wednesday's show. Looking forward to breaking this one down. For more, check out Locked On LA Kings wherever you get your podcasts, your team every day.
That's all for today on Locked On Game to Game NHL. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On NHL and your team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.